Hi everyone, back again for the making the electronic Raga video series. This is video 3. And for this we're going to look at a few different patches. Some of them are quite simple, so they won't take long to go through. And we're going to go through a bass drone, as well as just some sampling that's going on, and also a introduction of a melody. And I guess to start off with, we'll just start with the bass drone. So the bass drone is actually coming from the Endorphines Furthrrr generator down here. And what's going on is, I'll just turn it up. So for this one, it's a square wave output. The square wave is being modulated by an LFO. We've got two oscillators in here, and we're modulating the pulse width on the second oscillator here, and that is giving us a bit of a wave change throughout that. We also have a LFO coming from the monome arc here, this fourth ring, and that's just modulating a filter. So we're just going to slow that down and let that kind of open and close really slowly. The filter we're using is a Livewire Frequensteiner. What I love about this filter is that it's got a really great resonance on it. So I'm just gonna speed that up a little. It just really kind of sings in those upper registers. So that's basically all that's going on for the bass drone. Another thing we're doing is we're introducing a bit of a sample. So down here we have the Music Thing Modular FM radio module. This was a DIY kit, and I've got a SD card full of different field recordings. For this performance, we are using an old radio broadcast from the famous Orwell broadcast, The War of the Worlds. So
that point, the earliest opportunity. In the meantime, we have a late bulletin from San Diego, California.
That's
Professor
it there.
Endorphines speaking at a dinner of the California Astronomical.
Just creates a little interest in the performance, and this one is basically just playing from the beginning, and throughout the performance I will bring that in and out. It can be this module can let you trigger the sample in different parts. It can also change from which recording in the you have stored in the memory card. So depending on that, you might have an LFO sweeping through, and it might pick a number of different samples throughout. But for this one, we're just using a simple, just a playthrough. So that's what's going on there. And we also have we're going to start introducing a rhythm. Actually, we're going to be introducing a melody. So if we go over to this side of the rack, this module here with the lights in the row on top is another Music Thing Modular DIY kit, which is the Turing machine. So the Turing machine is a random looping sequencer, and you can use it for bass lines or melodies. it generates a string of random voltages that can be locked into a looping sequence. And those sequences can skip or change, and you can use a modulation source to actually change the position. And it also outputs a pulse if you want to use the random pulse to trigger something like an envelope. And for this one, we are also using in tandem a Addac system. It's called the Probabilistic generator. And so this is another type of a random gate module. And I'm just going to actually turn this up so you can hear what's going on. So there's a clock input here. You can see I'm just pointing to it. That clock is coming out from the probabilistic generator. So it's basically just it's like a random clock essentially that's synced to the clocks in this system, which is going at about 60 beats per minute. And we're also quantizing this. So this module on its own is just putting out a random control voltage. And so because we're playing in a major scale, we're also quantizing this. So the output from the Turing machine is going through this another Addac module, the Addac intuitive quantizer. So by default, this quantizer is just going in through a C major scale. So this light panel is essentially just a one octave of a piano keyboard put onto its side. So if we're going from C to C, this is the C major scale. But because we're playing in Lydian, we're going to add this and there we go. We've got a Lydian scale. So this matches with our Rag, which is Rag Kalyani. It's a Lydian scale based Raga. Sounds really nice. So for the oscillator for this, we're using a Mutable Instruments Plaits. Which is also being modulated a little bit. We've got a sine wave here that's got a bit of modulation going on, so there's a bit of morphing going on here. This is a function called the harmonic. Kind of gives it a more of a bell tone. That's not being modulated, so I have that set at about 33%. We're also modulating a timbre. Makes it a little more bright. So those modulations are coming from the Batumi again. Just a sine wave modulation. And we also have an envelope. Zadar here. So it's just a very simple envelope. This one's getting triggered randomly. is our trigger coming from? That's coming from the probabilistic generator as well. So that creates an interesting scenario where we've got the probabilistic generator triggering two modules. The first module is triggering is the clock on the Turing machine, and it's making that Turing machine advance in its sequenced loop. And we also have a separate probabilistic output coming into the envelope. So once we have a trigger going in here, that envelope is actually quite long. So with each gate trigger of the envelope, we can hear as there's a filter opening and closing, and it's allowing multiple notes to become part of that envelope. For our filter, we're using a Belgrad, I believe. Yes. I don't appear to have much going through there. It's a very subtle effect. Let's just turn off the bass drone. So the final destination for this random melody is going through a Pittsburgh modular analog replicator, which is this guy right here. And if we just turn up the wet mix on that, this is all in mono, and it just gives it a nice texture. Now, one more patch we have going on here is a rhythmic one. So for this patch, we're starting with a gate output coming from the Euclidean circles. So with this one, this is with every single gate turned on. If we turn this encoder counterclockwise, it changes the pattern. And so for that, that's triggering an Intellijel Plonk. And we have, what object are we using? We're using an object in here called the membrane, which is kind of as if you're just tapping the top of a snare drum without the snare turned on. And that's going through a Mutable instruments rings just over here. Again, similar to the tides, this one will allow you to spread notes within that resonance. So this is basically a resonator. This could be modulated. So if I pull out my modulation in there, put it back in, you can hear what it... it's keeping that in tune. This encoder is for the position. This is running in stereo, by the way, so we have odds and evens coming out of the resonator. Those are going through a clone of a module called Clouds, which originally would have been a Mutable Instruments module, but they're discontinued. You can actually get a clone version of it, so that's what we have going on here. Clouds is another stereo module, which is a texture synthesizer, and it's got a pitch function. It's kind of resampling the voice there. We've got a random CV coming into a random gate going into the freeze function. So every time that light turns on, the gate is freezing the sample of that resonator and kind of stretching it a little bit. So if we bring in all of the instruments now that we've been creating to date, now we have all of the patches running that we've been going over.
1,000 yards and we'll be over the first. 800 yards. 600. 400. 200. There they go. Fire arm raised. Green flash. This sprang us with flame. 2,000 feet. Engines are giving out. No chance to release bombs. Only one thing left. Stop on the plane at all.
Kind of get lost in there just listening to what's going on, because at this point it's quite a complex variation of layers going on, and sometimes I just like to leave that running, have it running through my stereo while I'm doing stuff around the house, and it's kind of mesmerizing to me. So basically that's what I wanted to cover for this video. This one we're nearing the end. I'd say we've got probably 2 more videos I think I can do. The next one I want to cover off the melody that is done on an instrument down here called the Hackin Continue Mini. This is an awesome little synthesizer, and we'll go into that in a lot more detail in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed video number 3 of the electronic Raga, and I will just heading into another work week here, so at some point when I get a little more time I will make the next video, and I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy the videos, please share them around. I'm hoping that other people can be inspired to make their own types of electronic ragas, and especially given that this for me is just a really rewarding style of music to play, and I just want other people to be able to experience it. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back with another video again soon.